morning, everyone. I think we can get started. There are two more people who are expected to join us. We are 9 out of 11, excluding me, I think, but including me, we are around 10. So I think it's a good forum. Um I know, I think some of you actually know each other. I think the GCC community is pretty small, and I think it's a known acquaintance is always a better one. But I'm new to the GCC community. I'm actually attending the first time. Definitely I would like to take a lot of experience and learnings from this forum. So I think I've actually come a little early to sink in the whole GCC environment to see like how the summits is happening, what people discuss. I've been through a couple of sessions on GCC for insurance, GCC for pharma, right? Hi Raghav, welcome, good morning. Um, I think we are now almost 10, right? So we just started, Raghav, we're just setting the context. So I think the topic that we have for today is generative AI for the GCC strategies and how we can drive that, right? Um, One thing which I observed is the two forums which are happening on the main hall are also having a lot of AI. And if I go back 2 years back, I think it was like, okay, we are discussing about AI. Now, if I just go into any forum and not find AI, I would be a little bit surprised about it, right? So it's like almost like a vital. Are you doing it or not is not the question. How much are you doing, right? And everyone wants to learn, and everyone wants to see like, how we are trying to do. So we have, I would not actually go to two things. I would not go back to how much of LLMs are evolving and how much of it's new, what IDC is saying, what Gartner is saying, what Forrester is saying, because there's so much of information that is there, and I'm sure we are all reading that. What we would like to spend here is to see the actual experiences that we are having on the ground. And I think I'm happy that we're having in a closed room context because we are more, we can actually share the heartful information, keeping apart the IPN compliance and the regulations of our companies are actually asking us to do. I think let's honor them. But I think it's a good forum for us to actually share information in terms of, let it be like, okay, I'm facing these challenges, I'm actually having these issues. It's not rosy always, okay? And primarily what I see in GCC is we are actually being driven by three main things. Rapid innovation, there's a lot of expectations, innovate. Then striking a balance between the young tech force that we have in India, plus the balance that we have to strike with our stakeholders and customers who are elsewhere in the world. And we have to be mindful about European regulations, American regulations, not about just Indian regulations, right? So that's a balancing act as a leaders that we are all trying to do. And the third thing is, unlike other tech waves, it is not settling down. Every quarter you have a new report, every quarter. But I remember the Chinese proverb, fishing in the muddy waters actually gives you the more thing. So we are in that juncture where we are actually forced to fish it in the muddy water so that we can get the maximum. So with that, I will start this. I'm Srikanth Kamaraju. I lead the Solution Center of Excellence, which is part of the Adobe Professional Services organization. So I also have incubated the Generative AI COE for the professional services in Adobe, along with other practice leaders. And I'm glad to actually share and learn experiences from you. I've been given the moderated chair, so I'll not be able to speak much. But I'm happy to share any information. If you guys want to have my opinion on any of these questions, I can share it offline after the time, if the time permits, okay? So few housekeeping items. I think we have given around 75 minutes approximately, and I think we have been prescribed about like 18 to 16 subtopics, 8 topics, right? So I went through some of your profiles, understood what you guys are doing, and at the same time, also being mindful about the time, I've split some questions. There is no exact science about who's actually a better person to ask which question. But I think you might have actually gone through the LinkedIn profiles. I think we have a very good mix of the verticals, industries, healthcare, BFS, automotive, agri-tech, and also the SaaS companies, right? So bank, BFS and everything. So I think it will be a good mix. So what we will do is, approximately when I ask the question, we can just give a quick introduction about your name, role, and the organization that you are coming from, and also have a quick 2-minute opinion about that question. And we'll leave also 2 minutes for the top-ups. If anyone has a real good point to add on based on their experiences, let's also allow that. So that's a free-flowing conversation with the roundtable, with some amount of inclusivity and democratization, having everyone get a chance to speak about it, right? Okay, I'll go with the first one, with the person who came last, right, Raghav? Raghav, you have the mic with you. Raghav, I think the first one is about the identifying high impact areas for the generative AI implementation, right? And you coming from Ernst & Young, right? A lot of consulting experience, and you're meeting a lot of customers. What is actually happening? Like, how organizations are putting their priorities in terms of impacting, or like knowing what is the high impact use case? Where should I put my money on generative AI?
Yeah. So, thank you. My name is Raghavendra. I lead EY's Global Delivery Services Analytics Organization. And we do work with a lot of clients, GCCs, in helping them incubate and evangelize and expand a lot of the capabilities around generative AI. Some of the observations that we've had is that obviously there is a little bit of the whole democratization is helping clients across the world explore the innovative capabilities of generative AI. That's very clear. So a lot of that, while that's happening in the areas of, let's say, a back office, let's say finance or HR processes, whether it's knowledge search, whether it is around document intelligence, some interesting patterns are coming out which are very, very, very fascinating. Some clients are now saying that I've done my innovative experimentation. I want a little bit more ROI out of this generative AI, right? One of the clients that we're working with is one of the world's largest auto companies. They want to cut down their entire software lifecycle development time by 30% next 2 years. They're very clear. Why do they want to do it? Every company is sitting on legacy applications. In many cases, the documentation, the codes still don't exist. And you want to modernize. Everybody is in a pattern of modernizing their data or their infra ecosystem. But how do you do it? Generative AI is helping them reverse engineer some of the codes. Generative AI is helping them define the use cases, right? The whole test scripts, etc. So I think they are seeing they're getting very fascinated by the power of this. And that's where, in my opinion, generative AI will play a bigger role, right? Every technology gets overestimated in the short term, as the term goes, right? You always overestimate in the short run while underestimate in the long run. When it comes to overestimation, you try every parameter that you can think of. But ultimately, you have to come to a point, what is my killer use case? The way we are seeing killer use case will be a lot around software lifecycle development. That is what will get appended by generative AI. And let me just pause here, because I'm sure you will also like to add, because we actually work a lot with Adobe also. So thank you very much for that, and love to get your views also on that. Yeah.
Sure. I can add quickly one thing. I think definitely the productivity improvement and efficiency gains are the topmost things, because it's a dollar calculation at the end of the day, right? I think whatever is easily measurable, what is easily savable, I think goes into the dollars, top line and bottom line balancing equation. So at Adobe also, I think we are focusing on that, and making sure that there is a lot of the lot of in-house innovation happens in each company, because when it comes to SDLC, I think there is a lot of IP involved in that. So nobody wants to actually shell out that secret recipes, like, how do I code, how do I do the coding? Of course, I might use GitHub Copilot, but there could be a lot of coding sweetness in my own IP. I would actually try to build my own the context around the language model. So definitely, I think there is a lot of innovation happening.
In fact, just want to add, HFS did this survey last year, and they said that only at that point in time, around September last year, only about 25% of the organizations were looking at SDLC,
right,
for generative AI. But in my opinion, if you do your survey now, probably 70 to 80% of organizations are looking at that particular area much more closely. Because see, what happens in the back office area, it's a little bit more, it's beaten to death a little bit more. Sure. Because of various RPA, outsourcing, etc. companies have already got their cost out. But this is one area where companies really want to cut down their ROI and get much more innovation and efficiency.
Absolutely, absolutely. Anyone like to add anything on this one? Sure. Yeah. Please. I think it's already switched on all the mics.
Is it?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Thank you. My name is Gurbans. I come from Pfizer, which is a fintech, among the oldest fintech, I think. And I lead product innovation and intelligent automation there, and also I'm part of the core team for AI enterprise-wide. So just to add to Raghav, what you said, we are getting into SDLC automation. We are a fintech with banking and credit card products, so we are very, very risk averse. So we will still take 3 months to analyze what GitHub Copilot has to offer. We just completed the SOC 2 audits on them. So we will not just jump into it, but something that we have advanced a little more is on the customer engagement side. We are still not exposing GenAI products to the external customers directly, but we have large data centers on call centers to support our external end users and also financial institutions. So the co-pilots, you can call it, or you can call it AI agents, or you can call it AI assist tools. That's where GenAI is coming in. We have seen tremendous amount of efficiency coming in by helping our assisting agents or call center agents being supported with GenAI products. So that's one area, and that's been, up till now, that's been a killer application for us, to be honest.
Cool. Thank you. Gurbans, you can continue on that. The next question was actually for you itself. So aligning on the business goals, definitely most of the organizations, one of the things which you already started mentioning about moving from IVRs and then moving the traffic to the conversational assistants, right? This is more about customer facing. Do you also see that different lines of business within an organization are also fighting for the same pie? The sales want the generative AI, the marketing wants the generative AI. I mean, it also depends on the organization culture. Sometimes, if you are running the COE, you might have to go and sell the generative AI or AI. And one more thing which I wanted to mention is, let's not actually put the boundaries about generative AI. I think let's be flexible to cross the walls of AI and generative AI, because that to me puts me in a very uncomfortable situation when I only talk about generative AI and not talk about AI, right? So, Gurupans, coming back to the point, do you see in your organization the business goals being set by different lines of business, or you as a, from what you are doing centrally from the technology perspective, are you actually doing it like a pull or a push from the technology perspective towards business goals?
So a good question. So we have been with AI for the last around 7 to 9 years. I will call it traditional AI just to differentiate it from Gen AI. And we have embedded traditional AI products, projects in our products, financial products, and also in our data warehouses, which are also accessible to clients and so on. But Gen AI is the one which really sparked the imagination of everyone. And in November of last year, we realized that somewhere there's a lot many people doing Gen AI projects, and I think we need to. Before that, no one was doing it. Everything was coming to the COE because it needed a little more nerdy, geeky people to kind of solve the issues. And now with Gen AI coming in, everyone can drag and drop and build applications. So that's when in November we said we formed a central team at the enterprise level. We call it the AI Acceleration Hub. And we said the first thing we need to do is take an inventory of what is happening. And we realized that there were 165 Gen AI based projects running across the organization, out of which 39 were chatbot related projects. And every BU was kind of trying to do their own thing, And we said, we need to stop this. And so we put the governance around it, and our chief of staff gave us one guideline, and he said, be fearless, but not be reckless. So we kind of use that. So we set up an AI governance around all these projects. There is an intake process. It's a very, very strict intake process. So depending upon what the project is doing and whether it is external facing or not, whether it works with applications which are external facing or internal facing. So there are different classifications of compliance that it goes through. So now we have put a lot of governance around it, and we have taken the organizational goals to translate to what the goal should be for GenAI within the organization. So we defined 6 priorities for us. We said the first one, and we sit on a huge amount of data. So we work with acquiring side, we work with the issuing side, we work with networks. So we have huge amounts of data. So we said, getting analytical insights that we can take back to market is number 1 priority. Number 2 is being able to use AI projects which make the experiences of the end customer better as my second priority. And the third is the operational excellence that I want to build in. So this is more cost savings related into the organization. So these were like more revenue cost related. And the last 2 is more around how am I going to use AI in a safe way. So they were more around regulatory and the ethics of AI. So these 2 have been established. So there's been a lot of work around the governance part of it. Projects have started moving out, but the priorities were taken from the organization, defined for GenAI, and defined a very strong intake process so that we don't deviate from there.
Sure. Thanks, Gurbans. Now, I think coming from fintech, I definitely know, I think that will be the first thing that will be asked about governance and compliance. And I think it's just important for every other organization, right? Because I very well resonate with what Gurbans was mentioning. When generative AI came in, everybody was trying to open up ChatGPT, putting everything there. You can put anything there. I mean, literally, I think it's not the GPT or the Open Azure AI that the organization owns from an enterprise scale. Just open ChatGPT and put everything there. So it requires a lot of democratization as well as communicating to them. So that brings to my next question about the communication to the stakeholders within the organization, right? One is for the entire developer community and the data center community. Second thing is about the lines of business, like what Gurvans was mentioning, and Deepika, the next question is for you, coming from Honeywell. Do you also have a very organized communication plan around, like, if you are running this center of excellence or the analytics part, the data part of it, right? How do you actually manage this kind of a communications? Is it like, are you the advisory to all the lines of business owners, or how does it happen? Saying that, how do you impose compliance and how do you encourage innovation? How does this communication happen to the stakeholders? And I know as part of GCC, we might have to also do that to the global counterpart. So would you like to touch upon that?
Sure. Thanks for that question, Shrikant. So I'm Deepika. I lead the AI function for Honeywell's building automation business unit. So here our focus when it comes to AI adoption is sustainability, automation, and the future of aviation, so aerospace being one of our business lines. So to your question, so I also lead a community of practice for generative AI with the charter of operationalizing this at scale and bringing in the best practices in terms of standardization, reuse within the organization, because Honeywell as an organization is huge, right? So we have several businesses, business units. Building automation is one, industrial automation is another, aerospace, and we have energy utilities as well. So, and each one, like you said, is creating their own generative AI solutions, not just generative AI, even AI solutions.
Sure.
And the only way to make this reuse happen is to build one central body, which acts as probably a virtual organization which brings together onto one platform all the AI experts, enthusiasts, practitioners within the organization across different businesses. Right? So yes, so we have, as part of the community of practice, a responsible AI body, which is a combination of, there is representation from, of course, the technology, there is representation from the legal community and the cyber security. We also have IT infrastructure. So it's a body that comprises of all these experts, I would say. And that is the reason it becomes a little easier for us to communicate to the stakeholders, be it the product stakeholders or the project stakeholders, services stakeholders, that this is something that can add value. And the way we have done this also, we have an outlook both in terms of external facing as well as the adoption of generative AI for internal productivity improvement solutions as well. So all the Copilot, GitHub Copilot, etc. for the development of the products, and most of our external facing products also have generative AI solutions integrated today, more in terms of assistance automation, bringing in the automation, etc. And basically enhancing the end user experience of our customers. So yes, so we do have the responsible AI practices coming in, and there is a clear mandate from the legal team saying that if you are adopting, these are the best practices to follow, and it is also highly regulated by the IT body.
Sure. Okay. I think a good point. I think in terms of choosing the technology and and communicating that okay, we are the responsible Gen AI council and this is what you guys have to do. This is guys you shouldn't do. Also comes with a great amount of groundwork that we have to do to understand which particular technology should we go in. Right. There is a lot of war that is happening on the technology side also. If I just do a little bit of gamification in this room. Okay, just to keep it a little interactive, between the four large players, Microsoft, IBM Watson, Google, and AWS Bedrock, just a raise of hands. Again, if it should not hurt your IPN compliance, just say that, okay, we are working or we are acquainted with this technology or we are there. Just raise of hands to see like how distributed would that be. IBM Watson, okay, Google, okay, Microsoft Azure, great, okay, and AWS Bedrock. See, look at that. I think it's so diverse. I mean, sometimes you might have to raise the hands for both. That's the situation that we are in right now, right? So that is the kind of thing, and every 6 months down the line, if you change the platform level or the cloud player level, imagine the kind of pressure that we would put on ourselves and all the app building teams. So that becomes an important thing wherein I'll ask Ashutosh to talk about what kind of a strategies would you implement to actually select the technologies or like, the LLM players or be the cloud players or even the nitty-gritties of bias detection, what you use. Do you build or do you buy?
Thanks, Shrikant. I'm Ashutosh. I lead the AI COE for Cigna India. We're building the capability here, and we now have a 50-member team who is operating out of India for the AI COE. Is my voice audible?
Yeah. Maybe okay. You can be a little bit louder. Yeah.
Okay, fine. Yeah. So coming to the question, tool selection is a very important aspect while we start this journey. The most important part is really to align with what the overall organization goal is, right? Because we cannot go with open source if your company doesn't support it, right? Like if the organization is more inclined toward AWS, you cannot go with Microsoft. If you go, like you will face challenges in future, right? So most important thing is like we have to see where the overall direction for the organization is set, whether it is going for open source or proprietary, and even with proprietary, what is like how we look for next 3 or 5 years, right? So that makes the one of the criteria to select the technology or the platform. Second key thing which I see is the technical capabilities of the platform, right? We should be well aware like what all use case we are going to do, whether it is just for the NLP or we want to also include the image classification, right? So we should have a good list of use cases that we should evaluate at the time of doing a POC of that tool. Also, scalability is another key feature, right? If we select a tool, we should be aware like how scalable it is in terms of both the data volume as well as the computation power, right? So, and how quickly we can scale it up. Sure. Thirdly is the integration, right? So how well it integrates with the other application, legacy application in our company. So these are the 2-3 key things we should think. Definitely total cost of ownership is another thing, right? How many dollars we are spending and how many really, what we are getting out of it. That's another thing we need to keep in mind. And TOC also comes with a lot of hidden cost, right? It's not just the installation, but the maintenance and the hidden cost which is there, right? So these are the few things we should be keeping in mind. Definitely, one more point I want to add is the feature of the security and privacy, right? Like how it is regulated. Does it support the different regulation which are set up by GDPR or HIPAA, right? Whether it is integratable or not, right? those are the few things,
Sure.
I think.
No, I think that definitely talks about like what suits your organization should be. You be completely aware of it, right? And anyone wants to add to that?
If I can add on that point,
sure.
right? It's absolutely spot on the pain point. So by the way, my name is Vijo. I lead the GenAI practice for AB InBev. So that's where you also need a good strategy partner in GenAI, right? Because the science is only like 2 years old. So either you should have a big network to understand what the market is doing, or you should make all the mistakes and learn from the mistakes, which will be very costly. So the biggest value that we find in partnerships is in this space. For example, we partner with Bain. They are our GenAI strategy partner. So they do the good job of understanding what the Fortune 500 of the world are doing, what mistakes they did, what worked for them, what didn't work for them, right? So I think that's money well spent, to be honest, right? Having a good strategy partner who can actually tell us what's working for your context, right?
Sure. Please, yeah.
Because I hope my voice is clear.
You can be a little louder.
Okay, so hi, I'm Pramod, and so I just wanted to add one thing that this is really important in terms of understanding, what the use case we want in terms of any of the line of business which we want to support. If we have that detail, and then we need to, slice it down in terms of what, so maybe if I take the case of GenAI, somebody wants to do a summarization use case, right? So there are many ways to do that, but how to ensure that we do the right, maybe we can, build it, or if there are any products, we can utilize them to do a faster development, like maybe, in that case, maybe any of the frameworks which are available for GenAI, like LangChain. Now with the combination, you need a vector database also. There are many, but you can see with this LangChain, you have a combination of Pinecone. So we'll have to see, okay, what are the things which will work out in a particular use case, right? And bifurcate them, from use case perspective, and then see if, some common solution can be built around to ensure that there is some, you don't have to reinvent the wheel for, all the time with every use case, right? So those things I think we need to slice down and see how to utilize them. Otherwise, it is a costly affair to do, again, reinvention of a wheel for, each of the one.
Sure.
Thank you.
That brings up to an interesting point. How many of us actually did a risk of moving away from this big four and try to dirty our hands with something in Hugging Face? Okay. Because see, that brings up, okay, great. That brings up to the point saying that, see, there is so much happening here. Either you look at this four, they are proven, they give end-to-end bias detection, hallucination detection, security, compliance, they have a framework for that. But at the same time, to Ashutosh's point, there are a lot of use cases which are not being solved by the regular large-scale LLMs. You see a lot of small language models, domain-specific language models. We get, very much interested in those things. We want to try that, but something stops us, right? Because we don't know whether that model is scalable. We don't know whether, somebody can assure for that. We don't know whether there will be a support for that model and everything. So that brings up to the point about scalability and flexibility, because we might be doing in a lot of early days of prototyping and experimentation. Samit, I would like to take your opinion on this. Especially when you are moving from the experimentation phase, prototyping phase to an enterprise solution, you want to make sure that you give that confidence factor to your executives and board, saying that we are putting in the production, it is gonna go smooth. How do you ensure that the scalability, flexibility goes hand in hand with the architecture of your organization? What are all the checks and balances that you are doing? If it is still in the works, then you can also talk about it. If it is already that you have done, great. We'd like to learn from you.
Hi, I'm Somit. I'm an enterprise architect from Sony Corporation. And thanks for this opportunity to talk here. So adapting AI or adapting AI, Gen AI or any other new software is no different. It is about convincing the user community first, the management about the costs and the risks. So I think, in my opinion, control is the key. Approach should be gradual. So whatever you do, there is no big bang. It has to be gradual.
Yeah.
The adoption of the technology per se should be first on a non-prod kind of test bed where you have a small setup, where you test it out, where you demonstrate a POC kind of thing to the stakeholders, take their comfort level, and then go to the larger picture. Even then, when you migrate these technologies to the production scale, you should definitely take care of aspects like security foremost, because we are dealing with enormous amount of data, more data than we can even think of. And with data comes privacy, with data comes sustainability, with data comes governance, everything will come. So even when you have a phased approach towards taking all sorts of care to test it on a non-prod, test it at a small scale, then moving to the larger scale, you should still be very aware of the risks that are going to be happening in a production scale, because only when, out of my experience of several years doing enterprise scale setups, only when an application is fully exposed to the end community, you will come to know the full risks.
Sure.
Because you will appreciate probably that in a small setup also, you will not be aware of all the risks that application is going to pose, right? Only when the application is exposed to the entire community, you will come up with bugs, you will come up with the breaches, and that point of time, you will have very less time to react, because it is already live. So it has to be very careful, but having said that, we have to take a first step. The easiest and the safest approach is to go gradual, go step by step, no big bang, and take care that you are aware of the security and other aspects that I just spoke of.
Thanks, Amit. That reminds me of a couple of incidents that happened in our ecosystem, right? So you go with everything prepared, and then there's a surprise, right? So you say, I have the data, we mask the data, we secure the data, we encrypted the data. You know what, the LLM is within our firewall, everything is great. And then you say that, okay, I'm gonna put it in the production. So they'll ask like a lot of questions saying that, have you trained the user on what to do that? You know, if it's about what Raghavendra was mentioning about SDLC, if I want to ask a question about generating a code, can I give the customer context in the prompt? So those things are much more new for us. So Neeraj, the next question is to you. In terms of whatever Samit has mentioned, is there anything else like where you might have actually faced some challenges and hurdles which you haven't actually thought about, especially in the AI and generative AI ecosystem, when compared to the normal data or analytics or IT things that we were doing day to day? Were there any new situations that you have faced as a hurdles and you had to face it, be it from compliance, law, or even from human resistance? I think that's some topic we have to talk about. You launch a great app. I remember when we launched something, they say that instead of me learning something as a prompt engineering and writing prompts and getting better prompts, why can't I write my code? Why can't I write my test case, which I'm expert? If I have to learn and write few short prompting, I'm actually spending more time than writing a simple test case. So there is a lot of change management thing also goes in. So I wanted to understand what are the hurdles and challenges that you could have seen in last few months or 1 year?
So hi everyone, this is Neeraj Kalpada. I lead the go-to-market analytics at Thomson Reuters. So coming to Gen AI, we were, especially Thomson Reuters was a bit ahead in terms of riding the wave, because we had already launched a product a year back which had the Gen AI capabilities, right? And we have an internal, COE. We have publicly kind of claimed that we are, spending upwards of 100 million investing into AI, Gen AI, right? So we had faced this issue early on, especially like every budding organization riding this wave would. But there are a couple of aspects around here, right? One is how is the Gen AI agenda percolated down from top to bottom, right? And what are the various initiatives that are planned? Essentially, there are positives and limitations to having something centralized, as well as allowing your decentralized teams to kind of act upon it, right? So we have a central platform which is opened across functions, but there is a centralized team which actually allows the proliferation of the tools and the platforms that are built specifically to allow the teams to use it. A couple of things I think that I think you highlighted, right? One was the tools part that you mentioned, right? And you mentioned, I think we had a show of hands in terms of what all tools that we go with, right? So early on, I think one thing we had not fixated on one tool, we actually have the internal platform that we have currently allows choosing and picking which LLM we want to go with, right? And the aspects of agentic AI, assistive AI, right, essentially. So those things we allow, for example, we have an in-house platform, it allows building chains, right, prompting, system prompting, and it is basically all the coding aspects and all the technical aspects which people are apprehensive about before jumping into this, especially the business users, right? That we have taken out, and the interfaces are made such intuitive that they don't face that challenge especially, right? Another thing we started early on was every success that a team sees, right? We have a central platform where they can go and put out that demo,
Okay,
or they can share it, right? And that actually helps a lot because that allows exponential usage. So if one customer experience team sees a success in a particular use case, they can quickly upload it, and that has allowed us to create that large repository. And
yeah, definitely great one. One thing which I have to admit is to be very clear in terms of whether this is really going to work or not. 6 months back, 1 year back, I was actually going and reading all the case studies from Amazon and Azure. Did anyone put anything in the production, or is everyone talking about it, right? And the named case studies, we would go back to those specific companies and see like whether they have done it or not. Coming from that point, I know the main thing that we are looking at is to make sure that we have a thorough ecosystem for us to innovate. The main engine that we are looking at is human resources, right? So that's my next question, where I would want to, get your opinions. I think I was actually looking at Gopinath for this one. Anyone wants to add anything on the last points? Sure,
point?
Gurba.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
So, yeah, this is Gopinath Chidambaram, leader of AI Advancement Center, Ford Motor Company. So, for the last point, I think you covered it. I think probably I would say 4 points, right? Like one is data-related challenges itself.
Sure.
With respect to what we face. So, the silos, basically not many companies have all the data consolidated into one system. So, that is one of the major challenges that I see everywhere.
Sure.
So building a kind of data platform or a factory that would help in ingestion, that would have data discovery capability, that would enable all the search capability to easily access relevant data, and of course the data knowledge, right, like to the people. That is something that I would say. Apart from that, I think people related is something that you covered.
Yeah, I'll let Gurbans add to that, and then I'll come back to that question. Yeah. Gurbans, please.
Sure, thanks. Especially for me, coming 30 years into engineering and then starting to build GenAI applications, some of the key things that really struck me were like, for example, everyone wants to build GenAI applications. Everyone gets involved. There are exciting ideas. But for example, I'll take those ideas. We wanted to build an application which can sift the CVs coming in for recruitment. The legal said, no, you can't use that GenAI for decision making. I was like, oh, really? We were building an application where maybe we could build a response system for our employees. They are asking questions to HR, so can I have a response back to them? Branding and comms team said, we want to look at every answer before it goes back to associates. We want to review that. And we want to be 100% sure that there's nothing which is non-parliamentary or something that doesn't stand in our branding guidelines goes back. Similarly, even for external communication, I mean, that's the reason I've not been able to put my GenAI application in production, because both ethics, legal, and branding team have not yet given me the permission, and they are not confident that the responses coming back meet our branding guidelines and our ethics guidelines. So that's been a big shift personally for me in terms of building applications pre-GenAI and post-GenAI phase.
How many of us actually had to go and talk about generative AI as an enablement to ethics, compliance, and legal team? Not as a hardcore enablement, but talk about things like, how different is it? Okay, 2, 3, 4, okay. I think we are being called into a conversation where they're saying, okay, explain me. I think it's more about that. And then probably some of you, or at least me, I said, okay, it's not about this particular use case or a conversation, but let's have this in generic, right? So let's bring some of the outside-in perspective and everything. That is very important because though we can't discount the fact, it is important for us to educate them and enable them as much as we are actually going through the learning curve. So that's an interesting topic. And the second thing, of course, is about our ground staff on the development part. How many of us actually believe that this whole ecosystem have to be built with a hybrid approach of hiring and training? Like, are we, okay, 1, 2, 3, okay, I think 99%. So we don't want to go and set up a COE with hiring 10 guns from the market, data science markets, and you will be, hitting the bottom line badly. And then, so with that, I think most of the organizations are actually trying to invest, right? So Gopinath, on this point, in your organization, when it comes to cross-skill and upskill people on AI or generative AI, to be very frank, and this brings up a point saying that a lot of people are getting enabled on generative AI directly than AI. And this is from my experience, and I said, so if you want to touch upon this also, does it make directly a leap into generative AI? How do you guys are handling this?
Yeah, that's a good question. This is one of the biggest challenge, right, in an organization. So Ford is basically a very large scale, like there are lakhs of people, right? So there is a small team that basically has super good expertise that can do all the advancements in AI. Whereas the large majority of people are resisting or kind of unaware of certain latest advancements in technology. So we need to share the success stories to them, right? Like, okay, with this you can solve. The frequent question that I get asked from my team, or rather saying a bigger enterprise level organization, is, will my job, or is my job at risk if I because of AI? The answer that I frequently say is like, your job would be not taken away by AI, but by a person who knows AI. So that's the statement that I always make. So same way, it is important to repeatedly communicate to the people to set the culture of learning and growth, right? So that people understand that it's essential for them to learn AI and adopt AI across the organization. So in order to do that, we have curated courses, we have open licenses that anyone could access to, and then learn Gen AI things, right? So one of the challenge, again, as you rightly mentioned, it's not about learning Gen AI, but it's skipping all through the basic foundations. So the curated courses helps. The pair programming helps. So basically, pair up a senior engineer or senior AI engineer along with a junior engineer, so that they understand what they are doing. It's not about knowing how to do it, right? It is also about knowing how did it get done, how did they get it done.
Sure.
So it's also about learning the process of how the BERT works, how the transformer works, how the model behaves.
Sure.
So it's mostly after Gen AI, LLM has become more and more black box than ever.
Sure.
Right? So it's important to know how things work to quickly adopt. So that's the thing that we always insist. And again, of course, walk the talk.
Sure.
So it shouldn't be like, okay, you learn this, you learn this. It should be like, I learn and
Absolutely.
I set as an example, and I make the team inspire and take it up.
Sure.
So as well as we have a lot of hackathon programs, so that we people, cross-functional people come up with us and come up with an idea, and then they adopt Gen AI. So these are some of the strategies that we make. Hackathons, pair programming, give project-specific goals, right? So say I have some use case. Okay, break down that into multiple pieces, give microservices, give micro targets.
Sure.
Don't give like, okay, you do this big project, come back to me after 3 months, that is not going to work out. Give them a micro project so that they can learn, experience how it is helpful.
Sure.
Of course, in all through this exercise, we can't do something out of the box, right? In the organization level, it's very critical to add value to the business.
Sure.
So we prioritize what are our short-term goals, what are our long-term goals. We provide short-term goals to the experts. We share the long-term goals to the learners.
Sure.
So that way
I have some leeway time.
So that way that is like associated with our business goals and
Got
objectives.
Shrikant,
Yeah,
just,
please.
one thing that's really coming up is that this is not very cheap.
Absolutely.
It's quite expensive.
Absolutely, yep.
Right? I mean, we also use it internally. More you democratize and you start using all the tokens, it's not going to be that
Absolutely.
easy.
Yeah.
So FinOps is coming a big time.
Yep. Yep.
You know, what's the cost of
Guys,
operating
you
the
are
whole
like
thing?
burning it. What is it
I mean,
coming in back?
Forget
Yeah.
the legal guys, the finance guys are after us.
Yeah.
You know, they want to know what the ROI is.
True, true.
Right? It's nice to have democratization, but democratization comes with a cost.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So I thought I'd just lay that point.
No, definitely. I think that's a good point. And I think that's where they're also asking, like, what is, okay, we know that you guys are experimenting, doing rapid prototyping, everything. It's a new technology. Are you saying 1 quarter, 2 quarter? When am I going to get the ROI, right? So at least, in some of our organizations, and I would like to, develop on this a little bit. How many of us actually are looking forward for partnerships with large organizations where there are few sandboxes or anything given for a subsidized rates only for non-production kind of learning programs, or there could be like a corporate learning programs that are associated with Microsoft, Azure, and Google, and so on and so forth. LinkedIn learning. I mean, it's a theoretical learning, but LinkedIn learnings and all. Do you think this whole partnership programs, because everyone is doing partnership with everyone. In 6 months, if you have seen, there is no big company is not partnering with other big company who are rivalry in their own space. So the partnership becomes important, but how, to Raghavendra's point, how much are we able to tap into this partnership to cut down the cost to enable to innovate? Is it really helping us? Anyone? It's just a question that came up in my mind.
I can answer that.
Is that, yeah. Otherwise you can use
Try
this.
using that one.
Other one? Yes, Sachin, please go ahead.
So I'm Sachin. I work for Syngenta and lead digital and analytics for Syngenta. And your question is absolutely right. Are we looking for partnerships? Yes, the answer is yes. 2017, we were trying to build models for the farmers and across the world, smallholders. We couldn't build on our own, right? We had a team of 20 people. They struggled, right? Then we figured out what do we do? Then we went out, found a company in Germany, right? GCCs are sitting here. We found a company in Germany, and they were able to innovate a solution which we brought in, and then we scaled in India, right? And brought down the cost by 1/10. So the way it worked was that what we figured out is the context is very important, right? The kind of solutions you're building, and now we're partnering with some of the AI startups in India, building GenAI solutions for farmers and across rest of APAC smallholders. The context in terms of what we bring to the table, and then we realize that the core competency which we are looking for in terms of building GNI model is not there in the organization, right?
In your organization.
In my organization,
Sure.
right? So we'll have to get that from outside. But what we bring to the table is the domain knowledge, right? The scientists, the agri, the soil science, the how crop protection work, etc., etc. Now, when we marry the two, what we were able to define is that the kind of assumptions we were earlier taking, let's say something will take $10 million, we were able to bring it to $1 million or two, right? For rest of the region plus India. Okay, that is where the partnerships help. The flip side is that you have to always be working with a partner, right? You will not own the model. The only a part of the data you would own. There's very limited thing you could do with that data. So that's the flip side. But the positive side is you could go to the ground faster. You can hit the solution faster. So that's like the pluses and minuses of partnerships. But for us, the partnerships have really worked in the context where we work, right? And that is what the realization came that for a tech company, yes, they'll have to be experimentative in terms of building new things. But for companies like us, which are business, first and tech as an enablement, that is where the partnership plays a very big role.
Okay, great. We have another hand.
Yeah, if
Shamanta,
I can
please.
add on, I think we are dealing with a lot of unknowns right now. So, I think partnerships helps because they are expertise. First of all, the solution cost added to it, the training cost, and, even kind of time to get there to the last mile. And I think working with vendors who have kind of, been there, done that, have their expertise is very, very important. Otherwise, I think speed to market gets very, very tough if you're trying to invest, build your team, and then kind of tackle that.
Definitely. And I think with this topic, I think a lot of people outside this room will be very happy to interact with us. There's a lot of partners and staffing and the AI first companies who are actually looking forward to partner with GCCs, most of the sponsors who are there. One thing, Mamta, I would like to actually ask you to continue is upon the innovation side of it, right? I'll tell you, I think, I don't know if everyone agrees, but if you're in a normal digital tech consulting, AI consulting companies, and you run a hackathon, and you ask for people to come back with their own ideas, the first industry that they would pick up to do something is retail. Okay, it's very easy, it's very relatable, right? So at least in Adobe, when we run hackathons or ideation, right, they'll say, okay, let me put a first bright idea on retail, how to improve the experience and everything. So coming from retail, am I right? JC Penny, right?
Yeah.
So how do you guys, I mean, sometimes I feel that Flipkarts, Amazons, and they usually have a little edge, and because they are more on the customer experience side. So what is happening that you guys are seeing more ahead of us, like on the innovation from GenAI perspective? How is it happening in the retail side? This question is not there, by the way. I think I'm just going with a free flow conversation about partnerships and innovation and human resource. So I just thought I'll check with you on this one.
I think retail's easy. Who doesn't like shopping over here, right? Like be it online or in the store. There's a lot of relatability. There's a lot that you bring to the table that says, oh, I wish I had this sizing in X more colors, right? I think for retail over time, if you think about the foundational problems, right? Like for a retailer, it could be supply chain, it could be a merchandise planning, right? Like what assortment should I have? How much should I have? What should be the pricing? And I think over time, we've changed from, maybe thinking about 2 decades ago, how do I just bring visibility into what it is with reporting? And then you move to AI. And in some sense, you're solving still the foundational problem, like think about supply chain, right? Like optimization. How many trucks should I have? What should be my mode of transport, right? Time versus cost to be able to get the products to the store, etc. So I think all of those kind of remain. What we're moving towards more is more virtual assistants, right? How do you kind of up the customer experience game? The customers are just not happy if they have the right product at the right price in the right place. It's also more about, curated, personalized experiences for them. Now they want to be able to shop to say, I'd like to go for a prom event. So, can you help me put together the perfect dress with the perfect sandal with, everything else that kind of goes with it, right? And I think that is what we all want as well as end customers. So I think there's a lot of relatability in what you want to solve because it's ultimately going to make our lives as well easy and interesting.
Thanks, Mamta. I think we should take a deep breath for the next question. I think the next question is about for which we all owe back to our organizations. How do you report ROI? I think Raghavendra has started that conversation. This is a tough question, and I think we are all thinking about it, right? So in our next quarterly review meeting, when we go back, we'll be asked the questions, we gave you this much of budget. This is happening to me also. I think, when am I gonna see the revenue coming out of it, right? So how are we baselining the success criteria to begin with? I think for any ROI, you have to have KPIs. KPIs have to come with benchmarking. So maybe Ashutosh, you can start with, and then I'll ask Vijay to continue on this one. First, Ashutosh, from benchmarking, how do you actually benchmark the success criteria for anything in a measurable terms and non-measurable terms? If you have non-measurable terms, what are those things?
Sure. So if I wanted to highlight into 3-4 areas, the first thing is the operational efficiency. When we deploy the generative AI solution, we should be able to measure how effective is the solution in terms of, like, for example, if you're automating something, how much time are we really saving?
Sure.
Out of,
time is money.
Time is money, yeah. Second thing is the error rate, right? if we have put few processes into the automation mode, by how much percentage the error rate has come down.
Absolutely.
Right? That's another key area we should be looking for. We should also be going back to the customers. It can be internal customers, right? A lot of internal customers are there within the organization who use the GenAI solution. So we need to go back to them and really understand what their feedback is, right? We also have to see the adoption of the solution that we're deploying. Actually, somebody is really using it or not. Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's another thing we need to see. What's the level of the engagement customer have with it, right? What feedback they want to give. So we should do some internal survey, right? So these are these few things which I think should be a part of the KPIs, right? Starting with the time that we save, the error rate that comes down, the customer feedback, the usability, the adoption rate, and definitely the one of the most important thing is the ROI in terms of the financial performance, right? Like how many dollars we are saving, right? What we have put and now what we are getting across years. Like it may not be immediately, right? But how we see in 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, like what's the saving that we're doing when we're really putting some dollars in it. One more interesting thing is the compliance bit, because when you make a solution in generative AI, we have to follow a lot of compliances. Like we follow 55 different compliances, right? When we really put something on prediction. So I think as a part of KPI, it should also be shown like for each of the solution, how many compliances we have followed. There can be some solution where you cannot follow all the KPIs, right? Sorry, all the compliances. So in some dashboard, it should be shown like for this solution, we have followed 80% of the compliances, 90% of the compliances. That gives an overall view.
I'm glad that you're not saying 100%. So I think
on the Srikanth, on the ROI thing, one of the things that we got to be very careful is the voice of the employee.
Right.
Right. It's going to be. I mean, I suspect people have to start measuring what's going to be the impact on human beings, or employees, especially if you consider humans at center as a philosophy.
So human beings as in the end users of that particular application or technology.
End users, both users and people who are going to get impacted.
Correct. Okay. Got it.
I mean, it's a very sensitive topic, but in your ROI calculation, you want to measure, at least have a sense of where you are heading towards.
Yeah. I think that is not there here, but I think a very important topic is time saved is you have to invest somewhere else. You have to make sure that the human resources are not actually left with an opinion to the point that was mentioned earlier, saying that okay, am I in the risk of losing the job? If I was doing a 40-hour job, if this is getting done in 15 hours, if I am doing itself in 10 hours, forget about others. I learn AI, I do it in 10 hours. What will I be asked to do the next 30 hours?
Yes.
Absolutely. I think that's an important point. The second point, which I think we talked about all measurable metrics. There's a lot of delight and satisfaction that comes in the end user, which is not measurable. At times, we face a very challenging task saying that I actually did this app, it went into live, a lot of people are happy about it. Okay, what has happened is translated to me as $1, right? What are those such kind of a soft KPIs that we have? How do we actually make sure that we are answerable to finance, saying that, okay, happiness, customer satisfaction, delight. So how do we manage that?
Now for us, right, for every solution that we do in GenAI, it falls in 2 buckets. One, it's a strategic enabler. No questions asked by anyone on ROI. And others are projects that we do just for ROI. I'll give 2 examples of strategic enablers, right? We are a beer business. We spend $2 billion on marketing, right? And sometimes marketing can go, it could become a boomerang for you. So one thing that we always struggled is with social listening, right?
Okay.
Because we don't know if you are putting an ad on Budweiser, Magnum, in every state in US, how people are reacting to it.
Sure.
Right? You had seen a lot of backlash last year with a lot of marketing campaigns, right? So we always struggle with it. GenAI is a great tool when it comes to using a lot of third-party data, right? So we built this end-to-end social listening tool, right? That will let us know every time a campaign goes out, right? Every postcode in the Western world, how people are thinking about that campaign, right? Taking data from every possible source, right? Your Twitter, your X, your Facebook, YouTube, you name it, right? Thousands of data sources. very important because we must know which campaigns are working for us and which campaigns are not working. Are there any campaigns that we need to really take it off the air? Because we know that the day it aired, there are some bad negative comments coming on that, right? Can we really put a cost attached to it as an ROI? No, right? Another example is competitor intelligence, right? We want to know how our competitors are performing, right? Because every company who's trading, they have to submit their financials and all of that in the market anyway, right? So we take all the information from the financially available data sources, all the retailers, all of that, to understand how what are the strategies our competitors are adopting with respect to their pricing, their promotions, their ad campaigns, their long-term strategies, new SKU introductions, all of that, to see what are they thinking of, right? What their next big thing. Can I really put a dollar value on that? No. The first solution which I talked about, the running cost itself is like 4 million every year for the social listening.
Sure.
Competitor intelligence again costs like a million at least.
A lot of products in social listening also.
Yeah, running cost for a year. But no questions asked because those are strategic enablers, because these are things which we never had. These are enablers which we never had for the company, right?
True.
But everything that else we do, except one thing which is NPS, right? So for example, right, we have a huge B2B and B2C platforms presence in the Western world, right? The stickiness is the word that we use, right?
Yeah.
When the customers are interacting with us, what are the factors that really sticks them with our platforms, right? That's kind of an NPS score, but very difficult to give a dollar value to stickiness, right? But everything else is hard cash, right? For us, to one of the first points that Sari put, for us, GenAI is RPAs on steroids, right? There was a limit up to which RPAs could go. And for us, GenAI means majorly, right? 70% of our investment is on efficiencies. Because we believe that the support centers, the finance reconciliation centers, procurement centers, supply chain centers, we at least believe that at least 30% efficiency is possible in the next 3 years. In those areas, it's very clear.
Sure.
It's real ROI. Another area is marketing, right? Because content creation used to be it still is a very expensive exercise,
absolutely,
right? A lot of money goes to agencies. Personalized content creation was a big challenge because we cannot create personalized content because the cost of creating image with everybody's name and their liking is too expensive. With GenAI, super cheap.
Pretty easy, yeah.
So we just put it in 2 buckets. Strategic enablers, no questions asked, no ROI, very important for the long-term existence of the company. Everything else, we need to justify to the finance team, right?
Yeah, please, Pramod, yeah.
I think all the things are covered in terms of what the ROI we get, right? But just one thing, like in terms of strategic enablers, right? The perception of the customer, right? What he feels is like, the company is putting so much of effort to, give a excellent customer experience and the brand impact. So I think these kind of, campaigns or, strategic enablers will, help in terms of sorting and ensuring that people have a good experience. And in long term, it helps in terms of retaining the customers as well as, for acquiring the customers. So I think this is really, really important. At times, it is difficult to have an exact number for those, but in long term, we will have a positive impact in terms of the revenue for an organization with this.
No, I think definitely. So just to wrap it up, I think on this
just a quick point, yeah. So in addition to additional revenue and productivity, one of the metric which we follow is that if I am bringing something in, what is going out, right? If I am bringing in, let's say, conversational analytics, then I am getting rid of 5 or 10 dashboards.
Sure.
So that is how we evaluate, right?
The fatigue, the data fatigue.
Whether this is working or not, right? If somebody is supposed to go and access 10 dashboards, of course it takes a lot of productive time of theirs. And if there's one is working, you may not put a dollar value to it, but then it gives you a direction. That's the right direction.
Probably I would like to add one case that we are working on. So typically, I mean, I'm from Ford Motors, right? So naturally, car designs, right?
Sure.
So, when we want to launch a car, it really takes 3 years, right, from design to production.
Sure.
So what happens now after GenAI is like designing made simple with GenAI. So whatever the process that are being followed, say sketching, rendering, all those things are generated through GenAI.
Sure.
So whatever tools that are there that are currently consumed are not cheap. right? Like
Absolutely.
those are like multi-million dollars.
Absolutely, yeah.
So all these multi-million dollar tools are going away, or the consumption licenses are reducing. So naturally, we call something called relevancy metrics. So we don't put a return on investment always, so we call a relevancy metrics. So we define number of users, number of tools going away, number of inferences that are done, number of conversations made. So relevancy metrics defined across
That's a good one,
for
yeah.
all the use cases, right? So that, and again, metrics, defining a metric is half the battle. It's not complete.
Correct.
So we need to continuously monitor.
Report back, monitor,
We need to continuously monitor. We need to report back. And if there is a tech debt, we need to knock off.
Sure.
So that's how we are working on.
Okay, great.
I have a point. So this is just an afterthought. May not be discussed in this forum, but as an afterthought, while you say that what is the, so this Gen AI you are trying to use for, do you mean to say you're trying to use Gen AI for better designs? And so to that point, what is the what is the correctness of the design? What is the uniqueness of the design? So let's say, for example, you quoted about Ford, right? There is another car vendor A. He also, the car vendor also uses the same tool for doing the design generation. So how do you ensure that the design that Gen AI designed for you is unique and trademarkable?
Yeah.
So with this current technology, it's like not 100%.
Yeah.
Right?
So
No
that is
AI
a point,
100%.
and I'll not like to take the forum's time here. Maybe we can.
Somit, I can answer that, but I think I'll do it offline, because in our Adobe organization, I think we have those tools which do a lot of text to image, text to next. Correct. So we'll talk about it, but I think it's interesting topic, right? So it depends on what is your model or language model trained on. Is it like yours, or is it like crawling all over the world?
Right.
So we'll come to that, but definitely I'll take a part on that. The last two topics, I think we have 8 minutes. I think 5 minutes we'll try to conclude in 5 minutes, right? So Pramod, to you, we talked about a lot of barriers and everything. I think coming from Wells Fargo, one thing which I want to understand, the biggest thing is about data, right? Data as a barrier. In your organization, is it all, okay, let me not ask that way. So how do you see large organizations, they own data in pockets. And when you're trying to actually do something good for the organization and for the customers, do you see that as a challenge? And how do you actually go about solving that?
Hi, so I am Pramod Rawat and I work with Wells Fargo, and I have 17 years experience in the field of like technology and analytics and doing the technical product management. And so yeah, in our this is all my personal opinion with my experience, which I have tried to cover up. So mostly it is how we ensure that, because I have experience in a big organization, different teams, line of businesses will try to create a team doing some technical stuff around. They will, so maybe one team is using Oracle as a database, the other team is using SAS for querying the data. So that, and because of this scenario, what happens is lot of the money is invested like for an organization, because the cost is high in that way, right? Now how to solve this? So to solve this, we should have one enterprise platform, data platform, which can cater the need of different departments. And maybe in that platform, different ODLs can be created. Now, and different teams can take access basis on different organized data layers. Now that will help to reduce the cost, because then we don't have too many vendors in place. We will have one centralized solution. So different LOBs can take access to that, do analytics or do some other stuff which they want to for their business. So that is the key thing in terms of that. So creating one enterprise theme and strategy, ensuring to enable that, for all the organization from scalability perspective.
Sure.
So, but we'll have to go we'll have to think through in terms of what is the tech stack we will use. Also, how the different LOBs are adopting it, tracking the adoption, ensuring there is a seamless training program for the different LOB users, for that data platform. So maybe maybe for next 3 months, once the data platform is live for the users, maybe for first 3 months there are a lot of training programs for them, which is like weekly or monthly for them.
Sure.
and slowly and gradually, once the people are like up to the speed with the data platform, this frequency will be less, right?
Yeah, I think
So
the more they're stable, I think
right. So I think we need to focus in terms of the end-to-end strategy of, okay, how we are trying to solve one data platform strategy, and then how to enable it, and then how to ensure that people adopt it and be effective in that.
Got it.
That is the key thing.
Sure. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
Last question. I think I would not actually call out any names. I think the question is about how do you take this forward from GCC's point of view. Most likely, I would like to touch upon the point which we haven't done, because GCC, the ecosystem is, you are actually the critical part to make AI first organizations of your respective parent organizations, right? So what's in future? We have seen a lot, and I think we have exchanged opinions. Next 6 months to 1 year, or because I can't go saying after 1 year what will you do? Nobody has a clue on that, right? So next 6 months to 1 year, at least to be very practical, what are the main things that you think would drive the GCC more aggressively to all our global companies, parent companies? What we can do in this ecosystem? Anyone wants to go first on this one?
Yeah, so I would like to highlight one thing that, in terms of ensuring that we prioritize the talent strategy, because in this emerging market, we have a lot of emerging technologies also coming, right? Every 6 months you see a big change, right? In terms of, long back we used to have only structured data, right? Oracle databases, SAP, these are the big vendors. But then the unstructured data came into picture with the product companies like Facebook, now Meta. So, how to deal with them, right? There are different solutions around in the market, right, to solve for. So I think we need to ensure that we have right talent in the organization to deal with such situations.
Future-proof talent. Yep.
Yes, that is key thing, because also internally we should have themes around how to train people, right? With the organization strategy of what platform, what technology will be used, and basis that we should have proper trainings internally also for the employees, and we should support them in terms of maybe getting some courses around, which like in terms of orally or other platforms available in the market. And so I think if we do that, that will really help in terms of solving this piece, because if we have a good talent, definitely the solutions built around
scaling up,
the scalability and all will be great in an organization.
Got it.
Thank you so much.
Please. Yeah.
So I have a problem and I have a question. So I don't know how others are facing it. So up till now, we as a GCC, 8,000 people were the tech center, and we were the engineering powerhouse driving things. And suddenly with Gen AI coming, I'm facing competition now, because there are 22,000 tech and operations people across the globe now. Everyone can do it. So I suddenly feel that people who are closer to business, sometimes taking a lead in terms of, because they understand business, they're closer to it, and I'm starting facing the heat and competition there. I don't know how others are handling that. Do you face the same
Is
issue?
it because the technology is making business, the Gen AI technology is making business more empowered to?
There are technical teams across
the technology, and then
there are tech teams there too, and earlier everything used to flow to us very naturally.
Sure.
Now it doesn't, and you have to be in a little slightly competitive mode and keep your feet first.
Sure.
Can I add to that, right?
Yeah.
India is not the cheapest location for GCCs anymore. I have centers in Brazil, I have centers in Colombia, in Argentina. We had a big center in Kyiv before the war, which we have to stop after the Ukraine war. Right? The centers there are much cheaper than India, to be honest. So I don't think centers are coming to India for cost arbitrage anymore.
Absolutely, that's changed.
Right?
That's changed.
That has completely changed. So the whole thought process today is what value GCCs are going to drive. So I always get this question when I talk about efficiencies, right? You're talking about efficiencies, you're talking about taking out roles, right? Is it the right thing to do? But my answer to that is that, 10 years back, there were roles which are all about reading from PDFs and putting it on Excel manually. Do those jobs exist today? Those jobs don't exist today, right? So it's an evolution, right? This automation, this evolution will continue happening, right? And I strongly believe that technology has created more jobs than it has killed.
That's true.
So upskilling is
you
only...
just have to find it out where it is.
Exactly. You need to find where it is and upskill. That's the only option, right?
Sure. It's a function of the killer use case you got to find for your organization.
Absolutely.
And whoever controls that killer use case.
Yeah.
It could be on the marketing side. It could be on, as you said, branding side.
That's a good conclusion,
that person
Raghavendra.
wins.
I think we are 11:45, but that's a good conclusion to say, to say is, creativity is the new productivity. We should not think about like how to do it, but what to do. I mean, what can we do the first? Can we be the first? And can we move from prototype to the enterprise solutioning for the first? Can we show that impact? Okay, great. Thanks a lot, ladies and gentlemen. I think it was a very interesting conversation. I have to wrap it up, but doesn't stop it here, because I think we know all each other now. We have been connected on LinkedIn. I would like to leave upon something like saying that, because this is my first GCC forum, I don't know what will happen after each forum, but I wouldn't recommend any WhatsApp groups, anything that is like WhatsApp fatigue. But I think this group actually carries a lot of experience. And in fact, actually, it's such a evolving technology. Maybe we should think about a forum. Maybe we should talk about AIM. Maybe we should have some editorials that were coming from this group on generative AI. Maybe we can actually even contribute some of the compliance that is getting formed by Government of India. So there's a lot of possibilities that we can do. I'm just keeping it open. I think we can have a small LinkedIn group, if not WhatsApp group. Just post whatever opinions you have, and we can take it from there. Okay? Thank you. Thank you.